and welcome to The Pit here on 88.3 WXOU Auburn Hills. I'm Damian Dennis, joined in studio today by a friend of mine, the Oakland Post sports editor, Kevin Romanchik.
How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. Why don't you tell our listeners about yourself real quick before we get started here?
I'm the sports editor for the Oakland Post. I've been there for about 3 years. I primarily cover men's basketball for Oakland University. I've been here, like I said, I've been here for 3 years. I've been a huge sports fan my entire life, but it pretty much started the Post as doing music writing, and it kind of fell into me doing sports again, so it was a nice change of pace at the time.
Sounds like you've been here a long time, pretty involved.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely longer than I've been involved. You're technically my boss in a sort in the office next door.
Pretty much.
So today we're equals. I feel happy about that.
The roles have been reversed now. I'm in your house right now.
Oh yeah. So today on the show we're going to talk about the MLB free agency a little bit, not too much. Some Oakland basketball, some Oakland hockey, and the second half of the show, primarily college football, BCS and Heisman. But you want to start the show with some NBA talk. You have some strong feelings about this.
When the lockout happened, I pretty much wanted the season to be over with. Outside of all the people who depend on the NBA for jobs, I feel terrible for them that they already lost probably as much money as they have. But the lockout happened, and the new collective bargaining agreement happened because of they wanted to avoid occurrences like this, like what happened this past night with Chris Paul and the trade to the LA Lakers. For those of you who haven't heard what happened, it was already an approved trade it was approved in agreement, but as soon as the trade went through, David Stern vetoed to cancel the trade, and the reasoning was this. I'm going to pull up the quote here. All decisions are made on the basis of what is in the best interest of the Hornets, Stern said. The case of the trade proposal was that the case of the trade proposal that was made to the Hornets for Chris Paul, we decide, free from influence of the other NBA owners, that the team was better served with Chris in a Hornets uniform than by the outcome of the terms of the trade. What really means is the NBA wants to keep him in a smaller market. This is why we have a new collective bargaining agreement, is to avoid these arbitrary decisions that the NBA likes to do from time to time. It's in theory the trade's balanced, even though I don't like personally Chris Paul going to the Lakers. I hate the Lakers, but outside of that, it makes sense. And yes, they're going to be a juggernaut if they were to get Chris Paul. It adds more years onto Kobe and their reign in the West, but overall, it makes no sense. It's unfair, and this decision is just another reason why people are going to start falling from the NBA.
Well, wasn't the whole labor union strike deal, wasn't that pretty much because they wanted more interest in the smaller markets? They wanted it to be more fair than, say, for the Lakers to just have a monopoly on everything?
Yes, that being true, but in reality, the Hornets do get a good chunk of this. It's not like they're losing Paul and not getting anything in return, but I know they want to avoid having these larger markets, and that's fair and good, but at the same time, players are going to do what they want to do, and a lot of this was also to balance the player-owner control, and it already being unfair that the NBA already owns the Hornets. So when they say it's basically a decision from the NBA, no, they're just making the decision because they own the team. It's just ridiculous.
Absolutely. So, I'm not too familiar with the NBA stuff going on right now. I've heard of it quite a bit. I do listen to a lot of sports radio, a lot of sports TV, but I haven't been following it that much because I'm not interested. I'll put it that way. If I'm going to watch basketball, it's going to be college hoops.
Understandably so. I don't blame you, especially with all just a bunch of egos out there.
Yeah. For
not all the players, but a fair majority of them.
But how do you see this affecting the NBA? I mean, you did say it'd have like a downward effect. How do you feel that's just going to go on from here?
Who knows? I'm assuming, from what I heard, just from reading up on the internet, is Chris Paul is probably going to sue the NBA, just saying this is an unfair decision to veto it. You know, it's in theory the trade works. It's balanced throughout. But these players are going to play where they want to play, and that's maybe that puts the owners at a bad side because they basically control their destiny. But
I can completely understand that. I actually heard about that. I wanted to touch on that Chris Paul was thinking about suing the NBA, and it kind of seemed a little bit ridiculous to me after everything that's gone on over the last several months, and I just got a feeling from myself. I got the feeling that this is just making everything just a complete mess, keeping it a complete mess, really.
It's not gonna, and you know what? It's not gonna get any better because I understand Chris Paul's frustration. The Hornets don't have an owner. The NBA, it's basically all. I forgot the number of owners that kind of are involved with their management, but you have them managing the team. You don't have an owner that's putting his own dollars into what the best interest of the franchise. So from there on out, not a lot of good players coming into the team. He's obviously, in my opinion, the best point guard in at least 5-10 years. He's in his prime. He's still young. When you're not winning championships and he has the skill set that he has, I'd be frustrated too, being in a market where you have such a high ceiling.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of, the NBA is doing all their free agency stuff right now, and the trades and stuff. In Major League Baseball, they had that major deal just recently. What was it, Thursday morning?
Thursday morning.
Albert Pujols signed a contract with the Angels. I'm trying to think. The LA Angels, right?
Yep.
All right. And it's a 10-year contract for $250 million.
254.
54. All right.
Give her, $4 million.
To be a little bit more exact. That struck me as interesting because I remember all the talk pretty much all week was between the Marlins and Cardinals, and I remember hearing briefly at the end of Wednesday night, it seems like the Angels have thrown their cards into the mix, and next morning, as soon as I get to work, that's where I listen to my sports radio. As soon as I get to work, first thing I hear, we have breaking news. Albert Pujols signs with the L.A. Angels for blah, blah, blah. And it's just
out of nowhere.
Yeah. And they got C.J. Wilson, too.
Yeah, C.J. Wilson, he's a great pitcher. He had a sort of lackluster performance in the postseason, but 6-7 with a 2.94 ERA. And he made his first All-Star team, made a league high 34 starts. He's a great pitcher. It's the LA Angels are going to be great, and especially adding Pujols. But my whole issue with the Pujols trade, or not the trade, but the free agency pickup, I'm not, especially in baseball, I'm not a fan of signing a more than 6-year contract for someone in his 30s. And to be in, I know I've heard rumblings for a few years that you really don't know how old he really is. So he might potentially be 45.
We actually got into a discussion about that last night, about how old he might actually be, and they signed him for a 10-year deal. I mean, a lot of professional sports players aren't really viable after they're 40. I mean, there are some. I'm not going to say there aren't any, but a lot of them across all sports tend to lose a lot of their skill and luster by the time they reach that.
And it all depends on the player, too. My case in point with a large contract and it turning it back to bite them in the butt is with A-Rod. $252 million, 10-year deal, and you can look at his past few years. He's been on a serious decline, whether that be related to steroids or something else entirely. It's just usually more often than not doesn't work out. And the Tigers going to be in a similar position when Miguel Cabrera's contract is up. You're probably going to see a contract like this.
Absolutely. I got a little fun fact here for you that I'm saying. Apparently this deal that Pujols signed is the third $200 million contract signed in MLB history. And the other two are from Alex Rodriguez. Hey, Rod.
Not surprised.
I just think that whole deal there, I mean, it'll make the Angels viable again, and them taking C.J. Wilson will kind of renew that rivalry between the Rangers, but just the 10-year thing. Like you said, you have an issue with contracts in pro sports, mostly baseball, going over 6 years, especially when you don't know how old the guy is. It's a really big risk. That's what it is.
But at the same time, I think with LA, I think their understanding is we need to win now. And for the next, I can almost say for certainty, and then for the next 4 years, Pujols is going to be Pujols. He's probably the best player in baseball for probably the past 10 years almost. And he's gonna continue to be good, especially he can be exclusively a DH now, coming from the National League. It's gonna be good for LA, and C.J. Wilson's a great pitcher. They got a lot of young talent on that team. That's definitely gonna help them out, especially if they want to win now, which is pretty much the focus of that franchise.
How do you see this upcoming season for the Angels playing out? You think they're gonna be in the playoffs next year?
They should, especially in their division. Look what he did for the Cardinals. Especially, I know Cardinals had a lot of injuries this past season, and you know what you're going to get at Albert Pujols, and for the most part, C.J. Wilson, postseason aside, but he was one of the better pitchers this year. It's a great pitcher, and even one hitter can do a lot for you.
See them possibly winning the World Series this year?
Who knows? Especially with the rest of the winter meetings happening, you don't know who could be traded. The hot stove is still there.
Oh, yeah. If you were to take what's already happened with the Angels, and then what we already know's happened with all these other teams, if you took all the teams right now as we know them, do you think they'd win?
I think right now they have the best chance. Again, a great hitter can do a lot for you, especially depending where they place them in the lineup. There's a lot of talent on that team.
Well, speaking of winners, we got, this is an awful segue, but we got Oakland hosting Michigan tomorrow for Oakland Men's Division I hoops.
It's gonna be an interesting game. I like Oakland this close. I haven't seen the spread on this game yet. Not that I do any gambling of the sort, but just briefly looking over it earlier today, I like the advantage Oakland is. I think Petros is going to control the paint. I was coming into the season, I really didn't know what to expect from Petros. His numbers have been great, 4 double-doubles so far. I think he's gonna control them. And their tallest player being 6'10", and hasn't had a great season, but the guard play is gonna be the real story of this game.
Well, these two teams seem to be pretty even across the board.
Mm-hmm. They have a pretty similar mentality.
Yep. I find it a little bit just weird kind of saying that about Oakland and Michigan, because when I think of Michigan basketball, I don't think, necessarily championship team, but I think a viable team. And I think Oakland, and I think they're a mid-major championship team, but not a, national team. And the fact that we're saying they're pretty even across the board is just kind of an astounding thing to me. I like it.
Oh, but absolutely. It's. I think this is a better matchup than you had last year. What I'm excited to see is Tim Hardaway Jr. and Trey Burke against Travis Bader and Reggie Hamilton. It's going to be an interesting matchup, especially going into the Tennessee game. I didn't know what the size advantage would be. Reggie Hamilton being almost around 6 foot tall, and the tall guards for Tennessee. I didn't know how that was going to play out defensively for him, but it worked out. Scoring 35 points that game. It's gonna be a shooting game. You're gonna see a lot of 3-point shots. Both teams live and die by the three. Again, similar mentalities on offense. It's gonna be a run and gun game.
Reggie Hamilton leads the Golden Grizzlies in points, and I've got the team leaders for each team side by side here, and Oakland is outperforming Michigan so far this season in these categories. And I think tomorrow the game's at the Palace of Auburn Hills, right?
Yep.
I think maybe the fact that it's on a neutral site might play a little bit into it. But I'm excited for this game. I think Oakland's going to take this home.
I hope so. We say it's at a neutral site. It's going to be primarily a Michigan crowd. We had the same issue against Michigan State last year. The Oakland fans do come out. The Grizz King will be there, but we played in hostile environments before. This is going to be a little bit easier at being at the Palace, but it's going to be an interesting matchup. Oakland controls their destiny with this one. Especially in the last game, coming out with 22 turnovers. Ohio scoring 31 points off turnovers. They control, they basically control their own destiny. They were down by as much as 15 points against Ohio, and ended up losing only by 2. It's all up to Oakland this one. If you keep the turnovers down and keep your shooting percentage high, they can upset them right now.
Now, I actually read your article that you just wrote for the Oakland Post about that Ohio game, and you said, oh my God, I just forgot what I was going at. No, you said that turnovers is what killed Oakland in that game against Ohio.
Oh yeah, it's sloppy mistakes. That was the story of the game. It's just sloppy play by Oakland on that one. And Reggie acknowledged that. He said, I made stupid mistakes, and that he said it's never going to happen again. I really hope I can believe him, but we'll see how this happens. It's two very similar teams, and we'll go from there. Who knows?
Now, we say the game's actually going to be on a neutral site.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Personally, I don't feel like it actually is a neutral site because it's about 5 miles down the road at the Palace of Auburn Hills. Technically, even though Oakland University has a Rochester mailing address, the school's located in Auburn Hills, so it's essentially it's listed as a home game on a neutral site, but it is still a home game. Is there a reason Michigan doesn't play here? Or is there a reason why they aren't playing here, I should say?
The only person that really knows that is John Beilein and Greg Kampe. I know this will be the last game against Michigan for now. On Matt Pockett's show, the Greg Kampe show, he was on and stated that he said something along the lines. Kampe quoted John Beilein in a recent conversation, saying something along the lines of, John said this will be the last game against us because they can't afford to lose to us. That's a good thing and a bad thing because you're going to lose an in-state rival, not even a rival, but just a good in-state matchup for both teteams. It's really going to hurt them. But then again, it's good to hear that you're getting your
absolutely
teams that want to lose to you.
Absolutely. Well, you speak of in-state rivals, and this is a better segue, mind you. You speak of in-state rivals. Get this in before we go to break. Oakland University men's hockey opened up the Good Luck Duck Series this past weekend with Davenport University, and Davenport is out of Grand Rapids, so in-state rivals. My listeners know that I'm pretty much a huge mark for Oakland's Division I men's hockey team. I've had pretty much all those guys on the show at least once over the last couple months, but they opened up the series Friday night at the Onyx Ice Arena, shutting out Davenport 5-0. And it was actually a really exciting atmosphere and everything. I was there for that night. I was in that crowd, and everybody was going crazy. All 300 of us. But Dustin Hopner, Brian Jacobs, Anthony Kaleza, Frank Madiak, and Adam Novak all scored goals for Oakland throughout the course of all three periods, really. They got 2 in both the first and second, and their final goal in the third. And Davenport was not very happy. One of I don't remember who it was. One of the players got ejected for pretty much I think he kicked somebody. I don't remember. He was just really not happy. But Oakland opened up the Good Luck Duck Series with a win over Davenport. The next night,
followed with the 3-2 loss.
3-2 loss. And at least that was a good game, a close game. And Oakland tied it up in the second at 2-2, but third they let Davenport get a shot by, and the game ended 3-2. But that means the Good Luck Duck Series is essentially
it's even right now.
Yeah.
A split series can do a lot for either team. I think the layoff until early February when they come back to continue the series, that's really going to show who it. With any sport, I feel like it doesn't really what really matters is how you rebound from the win or loss. And right now, Oakland has a better chance to come out in the next series starting February 3rd at the Onyx against Davenport. They have a better chance of coming back and rebounding from that loss and taking control of that series.
Yep. Now, for everyone who's listening, the Good Luck Duck series is a series of 5 games for this duck that Davenport stole out of Oakland's locker room and painted in their school colors, which I got a glimpse of over the weekend.
I still haven't seen it.
Oh, it looks, it's not really a duck. It looks more like a goose, or I guess, okay, the Aflac duck.
That's okay.
Yeah, only with the Davenport jersey on right now, for now. But I think once they open up the series again on February 3rd, that as long as Oakland plays like they did going into this game and after this game this past Friday, they can take this series.
They just have to get a lot from their freshmen. I know it's a very young Oakland team as compared to last year, so we'll see how this turns out. They have a chance to really take control of the series and start the new semester off with a couple wins in February.
All right, we're gonna go to break here for a couple minutes. You're listening to The Pit Sports Talk. I'm Damian Dennis here with
Kevin Romanchik.
Yep. We'll be back in a couple minutes. You're listening to 88.3 WXOU Auburn Hills.
My name is Kyle Bauer. I enjoy independent music, bicycles, landscape art, linoleum floors, blue ribbon beers, girls with tattoos, cider mills, and sports. If you enjoy acoustic, ambient, emo, experimental, post-hardcore, slowcore, indie pop, and shoegaze music, then maybe you should listen to the host Turning Down the Bro. Thursdays, midnight to 2 a.m. on 88.3 WXOU, The Grizz.
Accidents and injuries can cause not just medical problems, but financial and legal problems as well. Each year, nearly 1 in 10 Americans suffers an injury serious enough for the emergency room, reports the National Center for Injury Control and Prevention. Accident victims must often deal with complicated medical, insurance, and legal issues. Fortunately, the Internet can help. One of the most comprehensive sites provides information on brain injuries, car accidents, dog bites, falls, workplace injuries, and more. The Find Law Accident and Injury Center lets users locate and research physicians and hospitals, health insurance and related financial issues, government assistance programs, and free and low-cost health insurance, medical care, and prescriptions. There's a product recall center, information on legal issues, tips on working with an attorney, and access to West Legal Directory, the Internet's largest lawyer directory. Every second and a half, someone in America suffers a disabling injury, says the National Safety Council. The Find Law Accident and Injury site is at www.findlaw.com.
Hey everybody, this is Marty Schaefer, aka Marty Party, and you are listening to 88.3 FM The Grizz from Auburn Hills, Michigan at Oakland University, streaming live 24/7 at WXOU.org. College Grown Radio.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
You remember that ball game we went to a couple years ago?
Sure.
And how you didn't have enough cash for 2 hot dogs, so you walked with me on your shoulders until we found an ATM? And then when we got back to our seats, we never saw the hot dog guy again.
Well, I don't remember all that.
Yeah, that was an awesome game.
You never know which moments will be the ones they'll remember forever, so take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 1-877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
I'm inspired to serve my community based on the fact that I get so much back from it.
Ken Wyben, USO volunteer.
This is a great country, and if people were to go ahead and step up to the plate by volunteering or doing something for their fellow man, this country will be greater than it ever was.
Lead, inspire, change the world again. Join thousands and find which volunteer opportunity is best for you. Call 1-800-424-8867 today or visit www.getinvolved.gov. This message is brought to you by the Corporation for National and Community Service on this station.
And welcome back to the pit here on 88.3 WXOU Auburn Hills. I'm Damian Dennis here with
Kevin Romanchik.
I like it. You say your own name. Makes it easier. So we're going to start talking about some football, some college football.
You have some interesting thoughts on the Michigan-Virginia Tech.
It's not really interesting thoughts because I didn't come up with them. It's just it's something that I heard that I find valid. And I want to get that point across because I think Garrett Elliott might be somewhere around. He might think I'm hopping on a bandwagon. Want to get that completely across that I'm not. It's just a valid argument. Michigan State had their chance in the Wisconsin game. They lost. Even I said there were some really good calls by those officials. I'm one of the few Michigan State fans who haven't been crying about it.
Okay.
It was a legit loss.
It was a loss,
Yeah. But I heard this argument over the week. Can't really precisely say the day, but I heard this argument over sports radio about how the Michigan and Virginia Tech bowl game is sort of like one that doesn't make sense. It's what the argument was is that I'll start with Michigan, just get it out of the way. That Michigan didn't play or couldn't beat the two best teams in the Big Ten this year, being Michigan State, who they lost to,
and Iowa,
and not Iowa. They did lose to Iowa, so that should hurt them too. But they didn't play Wisconsin. And yet, the fact that Michigan is in a bowl game over Michigan State, which I have no problem with. I really don't. I'm happy for Michigan. I'm a Michigan fan, too, so I'm happy. Got to get that point across before Garrett comes in here and starts choking me. But Michigan is in the Sugar Bowl, right? Sugar Bowl.
Yep.
Over Michigan State, which I'm fine with. But they didn't beat Michigan State. They lost to Iowa. Pretty bad loss. At least Michigan State's losses were a little bit more valid. I mean, Notre Dame and I can't even remember the other team they lost to. But
lost to Nebraska.
Nebraska, yeah. So those were two more viable teams.
Well, yes and no. Notre Dame has had their off year this year, but the thing is, the loss to Nebraska, 24-3 at Nebraska, and then Michigan, hands Nebraska 45-17.
Yeah.
My whole argument with that is, you're really not counted by your wins anymore, but you're more counted by your losses, especially in bowl picking season. So
yeah.
I can understand the choice,
quality of your losses too.
That's the big thing right there.
Now, the main part of that argument though wasn't mostly at Michigan. It was mostly aimed at Virginia Tech. Because Virginia Tech, I mean, they've got a great record this season. I don't want to take anything away from them, but for one, this is a BCS bowl, and we got number 11 and number 13 playing. And then, like Oklahoma State, there's a little bit of a feeling that they might be upset that they're not in the national title game. That happens. But they made this point that Oklahoma State and Stanford are playing, and then LSU and Alabama are playing in these bowl games. But then after that, all these other BCS bowl games, the other three, are just kind of being given away because of conference affiliations and everything.
Well, that's just the debate about the BCS in general. Dan Wetzel has a great book, Death to BCS, that really chronicles not only the poor matchups, but also the financial parts about this. But this choice is not based on football. It really isn't.
It's based on money. It's a business. That's essentially what it is.
But even the business side of it doesn't make sense. Because if they really were going to go for money, they would have put together a better game, which would have still been Michigan because they're going to draw grads from all across the nation. But I think they should have put Boise State against Michigan.
Oh, definitely.
That makes more sense. They played better in their conference, and you would have had a better draw. Boise fans, like Michigan fans, will drive from anywhere.
Yeah.
And that actually would have been an intriguing game to watch. I think that more so than Virginia Tech, who, they played Marshall. I'm looking at their schedule. Marshall, Duke. That's just ACC football, which isn't that great to begin with. Outside of Miami, it's really top heavy, especially in the ACC.
And they even lost to Clemson in the championship game
twice. First 23-3 loss,
and then 38-10.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Again, you should be judged by your losses.
Yeah.
Michigan lost to Michigan State. But they're the second best team in the Big Ten. In the Iowa game, they've always had trouble against Iowa, and Iowa's always going to play well at home.
Exactly. Now, it just kind of seems like the BCS is just a giant mess. There's been some talk about there possibly being a +1 added once this contract's up. Do you see that actually happening, Kevin?
I hope so, but I think at this point, something's going to have to change because of how top-heavy, especially in these major conferences, how top-heavy they actually are. That being the SEC, I think the fact that you're having a rematch this year around, everyone's record against the SEC it's ridiculous. The SEC is obviously the best football conference, and I think with that being like that, you're going to have to see a change somewhere down the line.
Absolutely. Now, I'm happy with the rematch because...
Oh, absolutely.
And once again, it's going to appear like I'm jumping on a bandwagon, which I'm not. I've been a fan of the SEC for a while, but I'm happy with it. But also, somebody gave me the argument that with the SEC competing against itself pretty much in the national championship, not only will they get more money from the business aspect, but it'll also pretty much open up some of the other coaches' eyes, get people to thinking about at least a +1. So, no matter where you stand on that argument, if you are against pretty much against the rematch or for it, either way, somebody's going to get what they want.
Oh, absolutely. And, no matter what people want to say, these are the two best teams in college football. Oklahoma State's loss against Iowa State, who's not very good.
And like you say, you got to be judged by your losses, and that's who they lost with. That's essentially why they're not in the championship.
And Alabama barely lost to LSU. I don't see why this is even discussed. And to be honest, I think it being like how it is right now, and now LSU now being in the national championship, the Stanford-Oklahoma State, I think that's a great matchup into itself. You have two good quarterbacks.
Mike Grundy, head coach of Oklahoma State, actually said that his players, he's told them not to sit there and dwell on the fact that they didn't get into the BCS championship game, but to prepare for Stanford, because Stanford is pretty much their idea of the BCS championship game now.
And he even said he would vote for Alabama to be in the national championship game as well.
Yeah. So,
and on top of that, no matter what people can debate what the score of the game would be, I think LSU would just demolish Oklahoma State. They may score a lot of points, but they also give up a ton of points as well.
Yeah.
So.
I think Oklahoma State would have had a fair chance, but I don't think it'll be anything like this SEC championship game. Like the first time they played, I called it the BCS championship game.
Exactly.
And that's what we're having.
People said it's the best college football game in the past 15 years.
I don't know about best, but it depends on your idea of best. For me, it was because I'm a big fan of defense.
Yeah, same here. This is the game. These are the two best defenses in college football.
I mean, the only points scored were a total of 5 field goals in that first game.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, it's not exciting football by any means, but it's a great game because it shows two teams who are very viable for a national championship.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So, I want to touch on that real quick about my record because I picked 4 games. I picked my buddy Topher. My listeners know Topher. I don't think you've met him yet, Kevin. He told me my picks were easy picks, and I guess they were because I only got 1 loss. I chose Oklahoma over Oklahoma State, which was my loss.
Mm-hmm.
I chose Wisconsin over Michigan State, even though the entire time I was rooting for Michigan State.
I chose Wisconsin in my picks as well.
Yep. SEC, I chose LSU, obviously, over Georgia. That was a given. And in the the Pac-12, this one I didn't even want to choose, but I had to because I was doing the Big 4 conferences. Oregon over UCLA.
Oh.
So, I mean, that one I felt dirty about.
that's a given right there. UCLA is terrible.
My record right now is 9-2-1. So I'm content with that.
I went 8-2 because I do picks every week.
Yeah.
And I went 8-2 on Saturday alone. So the games I actually lost on were who was it? And off the top of my head, I can't really remember. But I lost the two bad games. I don't know why I picked them that way. This is terrible.
It's all right. Like I said, when Wisconsin and Michigan State were playing, that was a great Big Ten championship game.
Absolutely.
Though I love that game. Even though the Spartans lost, I was like, yeah.
I mean, a lot of Spartans were complaining about the call at the end of the game, but I watched that play again. He had time to bail out of the tackle.
This is the way I looked at it. He didn't hit him. He didn't necessarily hit him, but he made contact. He was under him as the punter's bringing his leg down. It's still contact. It's against the rules essentially. It's a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
So if anything, I like what some of the analysts said. He shouldn't have went for it to begin with.
Exactly. It's too risky of the call because I think at that point the player's not thinking about doing anything. He's just thinking about making a play and making contact.
Absolutely. But that was a great call. I love the call where I don't remember who caught the ball, but Kirk Cousins threw it towards the sideline, and the receiver just jumps up and grabs it and extends his arm out, and he comes in with nothing but his toe.
Oh yeah.
I think they called that perfectly.
Oh,
they called it down at first, reviewed it, and overturned the decision, and that was a good call. Even though, don't get me wrong, I would have liked to have seen it called fair, but
it is what it is. You know, the replay really, in most cases, doesn't lie.
But I love that catch. Just, could you imagine if that would have been in, though? If he would have had at least, like, half his foot inbounds. I was trying to go to bed at that point. Not that I was bored with the game or anything. I just had to get up early for work. And that play happens, and I wake right back up.
It's funny, on that Saturday night, I work in the ER in Warren, and I was watching the game in a couple of the patients' rooms, and we all had the same reaction on that play and the final play of the game. It was funny.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it was just a great game in the end. It was a great inaugural, I can't say that word, inaugural Big Ten championship. It was a great one. And I think that's the way this new setup needs to start. Just really the two clear best teams in the Big Ten this year, and having a rematch, and the roles completely reversing, basically. So, with that being said, though, I want to do a Heisman special. I'm not going to get as much time on it that I wanted, which is fine, because I'm not sure how much we could have got into it really anyway.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk the Heisman Trophy. The presentation's tomorrow at 9 p.m., I think.
I believe so. I think that's right.
And pretty much Robert Griffin III out of Baylor is in the lead right now to take it home. Got Trent Richardson coming in second from Alabama. Andrew Luck from Stanford, who I don't think I need to clarify anything there.
Oh, yeah.
Monty Ball from Wisconsin. That one actually caught me off guard when I first heard that, when they got the phone calls earlier this week. That one caught me off guard. And then Tyrann Mathieu from LSU, cornerback. That one caught me off guard too, but I've at least heard of him. I mean, I've heard of Monty Ball, but in the Heisman talk.
But not in the Heisman talk.
Yeah. So, what do you like about these guys, if anything?
Well, Andrew Luck's Andrew Luck. He's the best, considered to be the best NFL prospect in 20 years. Every analyst agrees he's going to be good. He's a can't-miss prospect. Robert Griffin III, I like to think he's Cam Newton with a better throw. Unfortunately, I hate Cam Newton, but he's my quarterback in fantasy. But he's everything Cam Newton is, but a much better NFL prospect. He's 72% completion percentage, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Almost 4,000 yards. The numbers speak for themselves.
Absolutely.
He's just an unbelievable player.
And not to mention, he's coming from a team that pretty much, I don't want to say not well known, but they're not a big-time football program. I mean, they're...
Not in the Big 12, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So he brought that team into at least bigger national recognition. They gave their fans something to watch.
Yep.
And I love RG3. I haven't seen all of his games, but I've seen some, and he is a phenomenal quarterback.
He's the most exciting player in college football. There's no doubt about it. When you cannot turn away from the TV when you watch him play. From what I've seen in interviews, he's not unselfish. He's far from a selfish kid. Apparently he pros his girlfriend on the field. It's just everything I would want in my quarterback. Mobile, the guy can run out of the pocket, and the guy can throw it consistently enough.
He's pretty much an NFL quarterback with Team Tebow's personality.
There you go.
So, how do you feel about Matt Barkley not being a finalist? Because that one kind of threw a lot of people off. And then Monty Ball is a finalist.
I think because you can only have 5. I think if you look at Monty Ball's stats right now, he's ran for more yards, rushed for more yards than Trent Richardson at 1759, 32 touchdowns. He's caught six touchdowns receiving. He's had a great year, especially as a junior.
And isn't he nearing Barry Sanders' record too?
That's what I heard. And that's a very good fact to put him. I think he should be up higher in the polls because of that.
Yeah,
him having better numbers than Trent Richardson across the board, pretty much.
Oh, definitely.
But again, like you said, and as far as the rankings right now, Trent Richardson's second right now.
Yeah,
because you're going to have the SEC bias in that.
And Monty Ball's got a lot more. Well, okay, maybe not a lot more. Definitely not more. But he's got I'd say just as good even in the receiving aspect.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're pretty much close, and it's as far as average rush per play, everything there is what you want right now. He's probably gonna be a first round pick, probably no doubt about it. But Trent Richardson being what he is the past few years, he's on name recognition alone and in his career numbers, he's gonna move up higher in the rankings because of that.
Yep. Now, Tyrann Mathieu. How do you feel about that? I'm not used to seeing a cornerback in the Heisman talk. A finalist at that.
He is the best defensive player in college football. I love we talked about, we're both big defensive guys.
Yeah.
He is, his nickname's the Honey Badger. The guy can fly. He's also their punt returner. He's not going to go, this isn't probably going to translate to the NFL, him being 5'9", 175, but the guy is great. He's all over the field, plays on both sides of the ball. He's what you want, special teams and on the defense. And this is his second year in the program. He probably has 2-3 more years with him, and he's probably going to put up similar numbers. So if he's not in the discussion now, he will be in the next couple of years.
Now, I think I asked you about this last night. Mm-hmm. We got a lot of teams in the NFL right now who need quarterbacks, like the Indianapolis Colts. And I feel like I'm botching words all to hell today, man. One of those days. Well, we got a lot of a lot of need for quarterbacks in the NFL. And the thing is, though, I'm not sure about RG3. Is he a junior?
He is a senior.
Is he a senior? All right.
I believe he's a senior.
All right, I'm taking him out. But Matt Barkley and Andrew Luck, who are the two best quarterbacks and the two of the top 3 coming out, or who could come out. And that's my point. They don't necessarily need to come out. And what do you think? What do you personally, Kevin, think are the chances of these two great quarterbacks, these two great prospects coming out for the NFL this year?
Well, Andrew Luck's already said this is his last year at Stanford, and I don't blame him because it's really even if he does well in the bowl games, he's gonna be the number 1 pick. There's no doubt about it. He will be going to Indianapolis. They've already said they will take him if he falls to them wherever position they are. But as far as Matt Barkley, I think you don't want to make the Jake Locker mistake. When Jake Locker decided to stay for another year, it hurt his draft ranking. Yes, he went to a better team. He probably would have been. He probably would have went to the Rams, but now he plays for Tennessee, which works because you have a good run game. But I don't know. I think you should leave when you are in the best position to. So essentially, that's pretty much I'm taking that as your excuse for Andrew Luck, essentially, because they had a new coach this year, mm-hmm. And Stanford still did great, but I feel personally they didn't do as great as last year, and
It's just a great time for him to leave. See, it throws me off that he actually wants to because he goes to Stanford. From everything I've heard, Stanford's a really high academic.
Oh, it's a fantastic school, you know, and education is a great. He has a great education. I believe he graduates this year.
Well, okay, if he graduates this year, then I was gonna say maybe he'd stay just to graduate, but if he's graduating this year, he's got no reason to stay there for a senior year because he'll technically already have his degree anyway.
Well, and also he has nothing else to prove. You know, we all know Andrew Luck's great.
Yeah,
you can watch him for 5 minutes and know that he's easily the best quarterback, NFL prospect right now.
Now, Matt Barkley, he hasn't said for sure if he's coming out or not, but he has filed the papers. I think that was a point you were getting at, too, that he should come out.
Yeah, I believe USC is now will be off their probation. They can make a run for the postseason, and they have a ton of freshman talent, great receivers, great on the defensive end. But also on top of that, they're going to lose their best offensive tackle. That's probably going to do a lot for him too. You know, that aided him in putting up the numbers that he did. Yeah. And I think at this point, we know Matt Barkley's good too. Come out while you can get the high draft ranking.
Absolutely. Now, there's a lot of talk that Andrew Luck might get the Heisman just because he's Andrew Luck.
And that's too bad because we you know, again, looking at this number, RG3's numbers compared to Andrew, it's not even a contest. RG3 right now is the best college quarterback, the best college player, the most exciting, and it's I like to debate with someone about that, but you know, NFL there's a difference between the NFL and college. Right now, he's the best quarterback, best player.
See, I wanted to take a pick and put this towards my record. I'm not sure who to pick in this case. So I know RG3 right now is ahead of everybody. But there's that sense that Andrew Luck might get it just because he's Andrew Luck. You got Trent Richardson from Alabama, who is essentially, he is Alabama's offense.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, maybe not completely, but he's at least like 75% of their offense. You got Matthew from LSU, who is a major player on their defense. And then Monty Ball, who is nearing Barry Sanders' touchdown record. So I don't even know if I could make a choice here.
I think it's going to go Robert RG3. I think he should and will win the Heisman. Andrew Luck, Trent Richardson, Tyrann Mathieu, Monty Ball. Just because Monty Ball came out of nowhere, you know, the college football analysts know he's good. And the right people know he's a great running back, but the problem is he doesn't have that name recognition that Trent Richardson, Andrew Luck, RG3 have.
That they've had all year, or in Andrew Luck's case, a couple years.
Exactly.
So, I'm sitting here, I'm trying to think of who I should pick. It's just so hard.
Oh, absolutely. It's a tough pick. You know, you can't go wrong with either, and I think both will be good in the pros.
Oh, yeah.
The numbers make sense for it.
All these guys are going to be great, as long as they choose to. I mean, people seem to think that just because they do great in the college football world that they're even going to go to the NFL. They don't necessarily have to either.
In most cases, it doesn't translate completely. Look at Jake Locker. The all-time
Tim Tebow.
That's a debate unto itself. But a lot of times, there's a reason why we have college and the NFL. Both are completely different systems. No one really runs the spread outside of Denver right now, but it's a whole different ballgame coming the NFL. The speed of the game, all the cadences, everything is completely different.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to make my pick RG3.
It's a good pick. I think it's a safe bet right there.
Yeah. See, that's my problem, though. It's a safe bet, but this isn't really a game where it could go either way either, so.
And also, in him, throwing 72% from the pot, 72% all year. He also qualified for the Olympic track. I believe in the Olympic track at 17.
Wow.
6'2", 220, 21 years old. The kid's built like a tank. He'll be fine. I think he should be right up there. He should be the second quarterback taken overall.
Oh yeah. Second or third.
Between him or Barkley, one of the two.
These quarterbacks this year are just out of the NCAA. Man, they are just amazing.
I know a lot of people have talked about Landry Jones from Oklahoma being up there too, but he's had a fall from grace hasn't thrown a touchdown in the past 3 games. I think he finished with. The interceptions really have mounted up. He's really fallen out. He's fallen out of the race, but he might be a dark horse in the draft, he might be one of those guys that didn't really necessarily finish well, but will, make up for that in the NFL.
Absolutely. Now, we're pretty much out of time here, but I want to thank you for coming in, Kevin.
Thank you for letting me.
Yep, no problem. You're welcome back anytime,
Awesome.
mind you. Sports editor for the Oakland Post. I keep wanting to say press. That's going to get me in trouble if I do that. The sports editor for the Oakland Post. The office is right next door to the WXOU studios here in the Oakland Center on campus.
There's booths all over campus. Pick up an issue.
Oh, definitely. And read my stories over his. Come on.
Either way, sports is gonna be great this year. We have a new staff coming in. We are expecting great things.
Absolutely. Now, we're gonna end the show now. Not that I need to say it, but we're gonna end the show now. Thank you for coming in, Kevin.
Thank you very much. Take
You're
care, guys.
listening to The Pit. Or you were listening to The Pit on 88.3 WXOU Auburn Hills. See you next week.